Weather Wizards, it's time to put the final polish on your WeatherGift app. We're going to add a launch screen that shows this nice umbrella logo when our app starts up. We're going to add an about screen where you can share a message to the folks who use your app, and we'll use this snazzy WeatherGift umbrella as our app icon too. Let's rain down the final bit of awesomeness and finish this up, you code tornado. Now you can find the last few files that we need in the Google Drive that's at bit.ly/prof-g-swift-files, all lowercase letters. Once there, right-click on WeatherGift Files, then select Download. Chrome might take some time to zip up these files. There's some quirk in my browser setting where it's asking me if I want to leave. I'll click on Leave. Then it's going to present me with the File Save dialog. If your browser doesn't present you with a File Save dialog, then it's probably saving this into your Downloads folder so you can get the zip file in there. I'm given an option to name the file when I save it, so I'm going to name this file WeatherGift Files. I'm going to save it inside of my very first WeatherGift project folder, and click Save. Down here in the footer, I'm going to click on the file name and say Show in Finder. I'll double click on the zip to decompress this into a folder. I'll throw away the zip file, then go inside my files from Google Drive that I just unzipped. Then head over to Xcode, open up my assets catalog. I'm about to replace the app icon set, so I'm going to click on the existing empty one and then just press the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of this. Then I'll head back over to the Finder. Then I'm going to option click to select 4 items in here: the app icon set, the Powered by Google folder, the Powered by Open Weather PNG, and the WeatherGift logo. And drag these files into my assets catalog. And again, you can delete the remaining folder from your project now if you'd like. Then we'll click on LaunchScreen.storyboard in the project navigator. I'm going to go to View As and select the iPhone SE to design on. And the launch screen is what shows up as soon as your app launches, but before the main view controller loads and displays. Apple requires a launch screen storyboard for an app to be accepted in the App Store. They also have some user interface advice that you can seek out online. We're just going to add our WeatherGift logo on the launch screen. So we'll click on Library and drag over an image view. Click the image and click on the size inspector and set the width and height to 150. And then I'll position this image view right in the center of my launch screen. Back in the attribute inspector, under image, I'll start to type in weather, and I see my WeatherGift logo here. I'll select that. Then I'll click on add constraints, and since this is already centered in here, I'll just accept all 4 of those default constraints. Since I'm developing on the smallest iPhone, these fixed constraint distances will mean that the image gets larger on all other device sizes. Then click add 4 constraints. And in View As, we can take a look at this on larger iOS device sizes, and on the bigger devices, this looks really great. Good. So I'll go back to my small device. And now we're ready to create our About screen in our main storyboard. So I'll click on Library, I'll type in View Controller, grab this yellow View Controller ball. I'm going to plop mine down right underneath my main Location Detail View Controller. Then I'll click on Library again, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a toolbar. I'm going to plop this on this new view controller. Then I'll set my constraints: left 0, right 0, bottom 0. Make sure that they're all to the safe area. The left and right can be the view, that's fine. Then I'm going to set the height at 44, which is default. Add those 4 constraints. Then I'll double click on my bar button item and change the title from item to done. All the other interface objects we add in here, I want to use the hybrid technique. So what I'm going to do is click on Library and search for UI view, and then drag that view over. Then constrain this to 0, 0, 0, and 0. These should all be linked to the safe area. I can click Add 4 Constraints, and then I can put all of my remaining UI objects inside and use Auto Resizing. So let's click on Library and drag over a label. I'm going to center this. For the text, I'll put in WeatherGift, the name of the app. I'll change the font to a custom font, Avenir Next Condensed, and I'll set the point size to 64. Looks good. Just make sure that it's nice and centered. And I'll have the top bit touch the top margin of the safe area. Then under the library, we'll search for an image view and drag that over. You can eyeball this, no need for precision. I'm just going to touch the left and right margins. I'll be in that top margin distance from the top label, and I'll make it about 230 points tall. Then you can put in whatever image you want. I really like this image of my youngest daughter in the rain, so I'm going to select rain. Back to the library, drag over another label, drag it end to end to left and right margins. We'll center the text. We'll set the font to custom, Avenir Next Condensed 24. And then you can put in whatever text you want. I'm going to put in Made with Love for You by, and then if you do an Option Enter, that'll force a carriage return into the text, and I'll put my name on the second line. Then I'll set my lines to 0 and just adjust things. Now down below this, I'm going to put the Powered by Dark Sky and Powered by Google images. Those are both required as part of the terms of services in using these APIs. So I'll just click on the image that I have, Command D to duplicate, resize this one image, and I'll do the same with the other image. And you can just eyeball how to line these up. I set them both to 148 points wide. Align the margin so that it looks decent, and then I'll click on one image and select Powered by OpenWeather, click on the other image and select Powered by Google. And now let's set auto resizing for each of these objects. So I'll click on the WeatherGift label, and I want my external lines top, left, and right, and the internal line horizontally, so it's selected like this. The large image will have all of the external lines clicked as well as both of the internal lines, so it looks like this. And that will expand the image in both directions as the device size gets larger. Then the Made with Love label will be anchored externally left, right, and bottom, and also horizontally internally. The Dark Sky logo will be anchored left and bottom externally and horizontally internally. And the Google label is right and bottom externally and horizontally internally. Then if we click on devices of larger sizes, we see that the auto resizing looks perfect. This is great. We'll go back to our smallest size device. This sort of ghost outline rectangle that you see in the center toward the left isn't a problem with the way that we set up our app. It's just a bug in Xcode. We can get rid of that by clicking on the orientation to landscape mode and then back to portrait. And now let's set up our segue from this About bar button item in our location detail view controller. You probably want to click on that in the document outline because it's easier to make sure that you've got that. I'll control drag from the About button over to our About detail view controller, and this segue is going to be of type present modally. Now this view controller that shows the About screen needs its own Swift file, so I'm going to right-click on location list view controller.swift and select new file to add a file underneath that. Make sure that you're subclassing UI view controller. You might have something else in here. It's a UI view controller, and I'll change the class name to About view controller. Click on next, click create, and I'll delete the greenies. We don't need these comments. Next, we need to set the identity of our view controller with this new file so that we can create an IB action for the Done button. So Option click on Main Storyboard. We're in the Assistant Editor. Make sure the About view controller is selected. Then go to the Identity Inspector. Select the class About view controller. That's the file that we just created. Press Return. And now we can control drag from our Done bar button item in the document outline into our About view controller file. Let's name this IB action Done button pressed, and we'll set the sender type to bar button item. Click connect. Now we can close main storyboard, and we only need one line of code inside of our IB action for Done button pressed. Remember, we presented modally. How do we get rid of something that's presented modally? We dismiss. If it was show, we would pop, but we dismiss here. This is the option we want. Press return. Code completion gives us the method. Animated will be true, and completion will be nil. Now, if we take a look at main storyboard, I want to point out a problem that we would have if we ran our code right now with prepare for segue in location detail view controller. We just added this second segue here, headed to the About view controller, but prepare for segue inside of location detail view controller will fire if either of these two segues is executing. So if we look back at our code, we don't check the segue identifier like we usually do. If we ran our code right now and then clicked on the About button, we'd crash. That's because we'd hit Prepare for Segue since that button's also attached to a segue. And when we hit this line down here, we would try to downcast our destination, which is our About view controller, as this class, which is location list view controller. We can't do that. It would crash our code. It's like saying, take this thing, which is a piece of fruit, and call it an apple when it's really an orange. So the way we'll prevent this is we want this code to execute only when you've clicked on the cell that's going to transition us to location list view controller. So up here we'll say if segue.identifier equals, and in double quotes, open and close curlies, then highlight these three lines, cut it out with a Command X, paste it in between the curlies with a Command V, and now let's make sure that we get the right identifier in here so that these lines only execute when we click on that segue that transitions to the location list view controller. So let's head back to main storyboard, click on this segue, go up to the attributes inspector. The identifier is actually show list in upper camel case. So I want to highlight that, copy it with a Command C, head back to our code, and paste that in between the double quotes. Now there's just one more thing I want to change. It's inside of our page view controller, inside the load locations function. When we first set up element 0 in weather locations, we give it the name all caps current location. I want to make that an empty string because now what we should be doing is getting the exact location name using Location Manager, as long as the user has approved that. And so there's no reason for us to flash current location in there while we're waiting for the location to update. So, you future legends of the App Store, we have finished yet another app. Build and run. Let's take a look. No errors. Hammer time. Look at this magnificent launch screen welcoming you with an umbrella. So professional. And here is my location. We see it flashes up. Boston College looking great. Swipity swipe, swipe, swipe. Everything's looking super. Hey, I want to find out about this app. Who made this? Click on About. Modal presentation. Your loved ones will be amazed at your skill. Claim this for your own. Click done. We dismiss this present modally view controller. Looking fantastic. What happens if we go back to the home screen? We get the lovely icon on our phone as well. It's always a good idea to go ahead and delete and restart this to see how the app will work when it's loaded on a new user's device. We see that this app works perfectly. And think about all the stuff that you learned in this app, Swifter. You've learned about CocoaPods, Google Place Autocomplete, working with API keys and Git Ignore, saving user defaults, UI page view controllers, making API calls, parsing complex JSON with custom structs and classes, custom table view cells, collection view cells with custom cells, core location, geocoding, reverse geocoding, place marks, the view controller lifecycle, handling and responding to privacy settings and freezing table view cells. You are an experienced app developer. You should feel proud. I'm proud of you. Load your app up with your favorite photos, grab the devices of your loved ones, and install this app on their phones and have them marvel at your genius level skills. Keep at it, app developer. You are awesome.